Hello and welcome to Tech Town.
Tech Town.
It's season 3 special summer edition.
That's right, it's summer out.
Of all things tech. I'm Mr. Ellsberg. I'm here with the Town Wizard.
Hello.
To talk to you about everything you know when it comes to technology. We're here at Tech Town, and today we are talking about
progressive web apps.
progressive web apps.
See, this is going to be a good one. Okay. So what our job here is to take tech things that are kind of confusing or you don't know what they are.
Strange,
right, exactly.
jargony stuff.
And we're going to bring them to you in the way that you're going to understand and it's going to matter.
That's right. If I can understand it, you can understand it.
That's the idea.
Let's get to figuring this game out.
Exactly.
Progressive tech apps.
Progressive web apps. Okay,
what are we talking about?
Kind of a complicated name, and it's still a couple years out that you're going to see this really in action, but I want to warn you guys because it's actually pretty cool. And there's some cool things coming out with your phone and your apps and the web and all these things.
Right.
And it also kind of brings up a good conversation, which is apps versus web. So you may have not realized how important this conversation is.
They're like against each other?
In a way.
Or are they like two divergent paths?
In a way. But coming back together in a way. So this is why it gets interesting. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to ask you what you feel about apps versus websites. Let's say like differences, pros and cons. Have you noticed anything? Do you care about any difference?
Yeah, sure. So like when I'm in an app, it feels like everything I'm doing is underneath like the umbrella of that app. So like for instance, if I'm in iTunes, like I'm not going to do like a web search of stuff. I'll be able to search things within the iTunes app. So anything that's in iTunes, I'll be able to like kind of figure out. And it's got like a whole display and a program operations which are fit to support you within the iTunes app. When you're in the web, it's just like, well, you can just go into everything, but nothing is necessarily like curtailed to every single thing, right? So maybe they're not set up, like if you're in Google Chrome, it's not set up to help you with your, let's say if you're on the New York Times webpage or something like that, right? So they're not like a seamless integration system.
Right, exactly, yeah. When you're kind of on the web, maybe I'm sort of rephrasing what you're saying, is when you're on the web, you sort of know you're on the web. You're sort of in the web's world. You can always see Google Chrome at the top and the address bar and everything like that. When you're in an app, you feel like you're in it. You're in the app. You know, you don't see this other sort of thing. Absolutely. That's kind of one angle. Any other angles you can think of? Because there's a bunch of them.
Well, I mean,
a little more subtle.
Yeah. So if you have like an operating system that has just apps, you'll be able to look, like, you know, from your bird's eye view, you'll be able to see like, okay, I've got a notification in this app that there's something new that's going on.
Okay. Yeah. So these are a couple big ones. I think you put two in there. One of them is a home screen. Like if you look on your iPhone or Android phone, there's like that home screen. You can see the different apps there. Websites on Android, you can pin a website to your home screen. Which is sort of nice, and it sort of makes it feel in a way like an app,
but it's not dynamic.
Yeah, it doesn't update on that icon. It doesn't have those notifications. That's the other thing you mentioned that I think is a good example is notifications. So on these phones these days, with Android and iOS, and they have this notification system. It'll like pop up with something. Apps can do that. Websites can't quite do that.
Yeah, so like it would go through, say you could probably set it up to get a text message, like you've got a new article that's been posted, or you can, you know, like put if this then that, and then get an email, or something like along those lines, or maybe even like follow it on your social media page, so that you would get those kinds of updates. But it's not the seamless way that an app might be able to work. So
like let's say your phone's in your pocket. And you want to be notified of, you know, that you're close to the cool store that you wanted, or someone just sent you a new video message using whatever. Apps can do that. Your phone's in your pocket. It can you can have it ring or vibrate, and you look at it. It's like a bubble in the very front and says something. That's because it's an app. Okay, so these are a couple of things we're sort of seeing the difference between apps and web pages. Another big one is that when you, well, I think it's big, but when you when you push the button on your phone to see all the different apps that are open, and you can switch between them, apps will show up in that list. When it's a website, it'll sort of show up inside Chrome, right? It's not its own app. It's Chrome.
It's an extra step.
It's an extra step, right? You're sort of getting into Chrome and then maybe switching tabs within Chrome or something. So there's you know, it's just there's this innate difference between apps and websites, especially when you feel them on a phone. You know, on a computer, you can still get some of these things. We're mostly talking about phones and tablets these days. Another just sort of quick one is when you make an app, you're able to access the GPS of your phone. Right. You're able to access the microphone. You're able to access all like the hardware things that your phone can do. Okay. Websites started out with not able to access any of those, and now they're coming along. So you may have seen when you're on a website, it asks you for your current location. Yeah. But it's a little different, and it's now possible where it wasn't before. Right.
So like an app, you would give those kinds of allowances or permissions at the beginning, or you could go in and change them if you wanted to. Right. A website would probably have to ask you almost every time.
It could or it couldn't, but the way to think of it is that just wasn't even possible. Yeah. It wasn't even possible for your website to get your GPS location. Now we're getting there, and the whole point of what we're talking about today, progressive web apps, is taking all these things that apps sort of seem like they have the edge, the upper hand, and they're all coming to websites. Right. Okay, so progressive web apps, it's kind of like a word that Google has used a lot and nerdy people and programmers use. So it's not like you go and talk to people about progressive web apps, they're gonna know what you mean. Right. But the point is, people now know and think about a difference between apps and websites. And in the future, it's gonna be more blurred, and that can be really good for a couple reasons. Okay. So we'll talk about why. So, okay, first good thing about progressive web apps, you can add a link to it or a shortcut to it to your home screen. So we're talking about on Android, you can sort of do that as a website. You can sort of say pin it to my home screen. Yeah. But the concept needs to be on every phone, even eventually on iPhones. That's the goal. All these things are sort of standards that are getting put in place, and then it's up to the phones to adopt them. Right. And so Android is actually doing a really good job about it, and some other phones, where you're going to be able, for one of these websites that's specially marked as a special progressive website, you can say add to my home screen, and it'll add an icon. And what's even cooler is Android went even bigger than that and said when you tap on that to open that app, instead of it opening in Chrome as a website, it will open in Chrome. You just won't even know it because it's going to make it full screen. Right. Okay. So you'll no longer have a little browser bar. So it really will feel like an app. You know, you don't know that it's a website underneath. You just tap on it and it opens full screen, and there you go. Cool. So that's a big one. Another one is push notifications. So websites are going to be able eventually to hook into the push notifications on your Android phone. Right. So these things that we were talking about, you can't get just the bubble on the front of the screen that says this or that for a website. Well, you are going to be able to do that. Cool. So that's cool. Security, there's a lot of sort of up in the air security things about websites that now they're locking down. So security is always important. Hardware. So we're talking about the GPS. Now websites can kind of use the GPS. Okay. And the cameras, they sort of can use the camera barely, but we're having so many other hardware things come out, like, oh, your Fitbits and your Bluetooth this and your Wi-Fi toasters and even like a printer. Just to have a website be able to print on a phone is kind of not easy, right? Like, how does it connect to the printer? Right. So hardware, there's going to be more and more hardware things being made. Websites are going to have a way to talk to that hardware. And that is actually kind of a weird gap that needed to be filled. So, apps have a little more ability to get in there and talk with plugged in things or hardware or whatever. Right. But websites not as much until now, and so that's going to be a big one.
Very cool. So what is the thing that, like, why is it just now that it's happening?
A lot of it is because we've learned lessons from the past. Okay. And now we have sort of this, everybody's moving towards, we like the web. Okay. So the web before was like, okay, it's cool, but if you really want to do stuff, you got to make an app or a program that you download on your computer. Websites so far have historically been like pretty simple, pretty good. And then in the last 5 years, they got crazy and they wanted to do everything, wanted to do all the things that apps wanted to do, but it just hadn't been implemented yet. The browsers just didn't know how to do this or talk to that. Right. And so now, once we sort of started getting ideas of what we want them to do,
it's been a breakthrough.
Yeah, and the browsers have been implementing it. So like you can imagine Chrome and Firefox and Safari are all sort of having to add stuff to Chrome and Firefox and Safari to let these things work. Right. And now, since everybody kind of wants them and we like the ideas of apps, but let me tell you a couple good things about the web. So one kind of counter question is, why not just have apps? Why would we want the web? Right. Well, one simple one is you don't have to download websites. Right. To download an app is actually, a big in a way, a big process. Like to go to a website, you just type it in, boom. To download an app, you got to open the app store. Right. You got to search for the right name. You maybe click on it. You have to log in with whatever.
So what's this new thing that I've been hearing that you're able to get into an app without downloading everything?
So that was Android's new feature that they're coming out with, these instant apps. Yeah. That's like the other angle coming at it the same way. Like we all want you to instantly be able to access stuff. One way to do it is Android saying with certain kinds of apps that are made in a certain way, you can do that by instantly using the app rather than downloading it or parts of it. But that still is actually an app that's having to do some extra stuff. Versus this side, which is websites wanting to look and feel like apps, but you don't have to download them.
Right.
So yeah, either way is good. We're both kind of converging on some way to instantly use stuff.
Right.
But at least for all websites, and not only using them the first time, but updating.
Right.
Apps, you would have to go through an update process. You know, the person who makes the app has to submit a new version to Apple. Right. Apple may not agree and whatever. Websites, you can just update it behind the scenes.
Right. So I guess you're going to have to answer to Apple if you're going to make your app, or whoever is, maybe it's Android, whatever. But if you're creating a web page, you're going to have to answer the browsers.
Right. But the browser so far has done nothing, and for the foreseeable future, better not do anything to prevent you from going to those websites.
Okay.
You can still go to whatever website in Chrome. It's not like Chrome won't let you. But Apple's App Store, they will deny things and won't let you. So far, browsers have stayed out of that.
Right.
And so that's why the web is kind of this, you can go and get anything, where apps are still pretty locked down.
Right.
The counter argument is, maybe you want lockdown things, like less apps will give you viruses and problems because they've been locked down. But anyway, point is that the web is sort of this instant, it's updatable. The people on the website side can update it and give you a whole new version without you having to download stuff. Right. If there was a security problem that was found, they can fix it without you having to download the new one.
Right. So you have these two kind of crisscrossing paths, right?
Yeah.
Is there which one of those is more, I don't know, better for some reason?
Right. So good question. I think in the end, my preference is that the web will be more universally available to develop for. Okay. Meaning, if you can make a web page, you can then make an app.
Okay.
On the other hand, if you can make an app, sometimes you have to make the app in a specific way for the iPhone.
Right.
And if you do that, you may not be able to make it just into a website.
Right.
So one way, you sort of have everything, and it can work everywhere, and it can work on different screen sizes and different operating systems with the web page. And there's a bunch of history for web pages. The web's been around for now 20 years, whatever. Right. So, but apps, it's still a little bit custom or whatever. So apps will be on the cutting edge of some of these features with the phones.
Right.
Let's say the phone comes out with a metal detector.
Right.
Maybe the app will be the first one to be able to understand what a metal detector means. Yeah. But the web now is starting to get a few more of these. So I kind of feel like the web is the one, and that we're all kind of getting there. And we're adding a few of these things that the web didn't quite have that the apps had. But some people are very hardcore app people and say, the web will never be able to do this or that.
Right. So what you're saying is at the end, you would want a web page to be able to make individualized for the user, like an app.
Yeah.
Theoretically does.
I think
that's kind of what you want to get to, is by the end, maybe you get to a web page and have your own account with them, and they just make the whole thing, changeable and easy for you to use for whatever that is that you use it for.
Yeah, the thing is, websites have a lot of that already. You can imagine all the things that websites do.
Right.
It's just there's 5 to 10 things that apps could do that they can't. So that once you add that to the mix, now you got it all.
Right.
So just the adding to the home screen or making it feel full screen so you're all the way in it. Just these couple little things. It may seem little in a way, but it can be big, because at least for the people making the thing, they need to know, which should I do? Should I make an app, or should I make a website? So it's just an interesting time. It's good to know that all this is happening, so that you at least look forward to the web. The web's going to keep getting better.
Very, very, very cool. Progressive web apps.
Progressive web apps. So check it out. Google has some good websites and videos. We have in the links to the show notes. But just get ready for the web to be even cooler than it is.
Sweet. Which brings us to our
music segment of the week. Music. So this week we should just talk about What the Festival. So we just got back from wonderful music
from What the Festival,
called What the Festival.
Yep.
And
music, art,
yeah,
movement,
yep,
yoga,
forest, pool stage, mountain views, food,
yep,
camping. It was awesome.
Yep.
So we just got back from it from this last week. What did you find that you liked about What the Festival?
Wholeheartedly endorse it. It's the second year that we've done the volunteer thing.
That's right too.
Super great.
Yeah.
Very much advise anyone to jump into a festival and try to participate through maybe volunteering or submitting their own art or something along those lines. It really brings you into the festival, into the mix, and so that you are part of it, which is something that we both like.
Yeah.
Music was great. I thought it was kind of all over the place. I listened to anything from DJs to live music to a guy playing a shovel. I mean, yeah, Shovel Man. Check him out. So yeah, like all of these crazy things, and yeah, that was great, and had a really good time.
Yeah, good. Man. Yeah, me too. Definitely, it was great to see all the different kinds of music. You know, a lot of music festivals these days are just the electronic music, but this has electronic and funk and folk and ska. And so that was fun. Definitely enjoyed the art forest. Wonderful walks through the crazy interactive art pieces there.
Right.
I still need to figure out, so I can program LED lights, but I need to know what they should do. They have the coolest colorful patterns doing all these amazing little patterns. I need to figure out how to make the best patterns. So I'm still working on that.
LED lights, something that we're still trying to figure out how to use the best.
Exactly. It's a lifelong pursuit.
Festival. Somehow we need to integrate it with heckling. Obviously.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there you go.
Yeah, recommend it. Check it out next year, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, there's other festivals as well. That's just our local one that we really
true. Yeah, that's right around the Portland area.
Yeah. So boom, check it out. Which brings us finally to our
security. Let me out. So, okay, this week on security, we've talked before about HTTPS.
HTTPS, right? And
that's when you go to a website, if you're at all worried about security, if you type in a password, look for it in the upper left, HTTPS, the little green line. Now, that used to cost money for the website person to make it work.
Right.
There's now a new way to do it for free.
What?
So I want to give a shout out to Let's Encrypt.
Let's Encrypt.
Let's Encrypt. And Let's Encrypt is a way, if you happen to have a website, and especially if you haven't yet done HTTPS for your website, if you're just like, you didn't know what to do or you're worried about paying for it, then you can use Let's Encrypt to get a free certificate, which is the thing that makes this HTTPS thing work, for your website. So bottom line is, if you haven't done security for your website, Let's Encrypt is the way to do it for free.
Let's Encrypt.
So try it out.
Awesome. Very cool. So today we talked about progressive web apps.
That's right. Apps that are actually made using websites, but now feel like apps.
Right. And we got into the music of the What the Festival.
Yeah.
We both had a great time. And finally, if you have a website, encrypt it.
Let's Encrypt for free.
Yeah. So boom.
All right.
That's our summer edition of Tech Town. We hope to see you again soon. I'm Mr. Ellsberg. This is our Town Wizard signing out.
Peace.